Hey everybody, Todd Caponi here. And as I work with clients on re-choreographing their presentations so that they not only tell a great story, but they're incredibly compelling to the audience using a little behavioral science, one of the things that constantly comes up is the use of text in slides. And this idea that we still use way too much of it. And so what I'd like to do is explain why that doesn't work and hopefully give you the why behind it so that you say, yes, I am going to get rid of the text on my slides and go visual only. Now, it starts with the way that our brains process information. We've got different systems that process information when we're listening to a presentation. The two primary ones are obviously with our eyes, so visually, and with our ears, so as we're listening. Now, that covers about 98% of us, unless you're selling velvet or cookies. The smell or the feel probably doesn't play a big role. But this all goes to something nerdy called the dual coding theory. If you want to look it up, you can see how our brains process information and how when we're hitting two of those at the same time, that coupling makes memories more effective and goes into long-term memory faster. But I digress. Now, I want you to think about your presentations. Now, I use a whiteboard a lot, but most companies still use slides, which is cool. And if slides are done right, they can be more effective than anything else, but most of the time they're not done right. So let's go over to Ernie here for a second. And I want you to imagine that Ernie is in your audience and you're giving a presentation where you're talking, so voice, and then images. So your slides are just pictures. What's happening? Well, obviously, voice is being processed by their ears, right? So they're processing with that center of the brain. And then at the same time, if you're using images to reinforce what you're saying, there's a coupling going on. Those images are being processed by your eyes. So your eyes are processing the visual information, your ears processing the auditory, and then it's coupling in your brain and creating a long-term memory. All right, so now let's go over to the bad side, which is now I'm giving a presentation, but I'm using slides that are filled with text. I got paragraphs in there. I've got sentences in there. I'm using really tiny font. What happens? Well, obviously, still our voice is being processed by their ears, right? So they're listening. That center is processing that information. But here's the counterintuitive part. As they're reading the text on your slides, you think, well, the text that's with your eyes too, right? Well, no. We as human beings don't process text with our eyes. Now we read it, but what our brain does is actually reads the text to ourselves and processes in the auditory center as well. So your text on your slides is being processed in the same center as voice, which creates a conflict, right? Because our brains can't do both. And as a result, they are not getting that full message. They are not paying attention to what you say. In other words, the brain is not able to read with comprehension and listen with comprehension at the same time. And as a result, they're missing half of the message. So my advice to you is to think about getting rid of text on your slides and go totally visual. Like when I give a presentation, let's say I'm talking about how our brains process logic and how cognitive biases force consensus buyers into corners. I might show a picture like this. This is Francis Bacon. And I'll tell you the story about how in 1620 he came up with this theory around how our brains do this, right? All visual, so I can make that connection. This is Francis Bacon. Now, when you see a picture of him, you may remember that because we've used two different systems in one conversation. All right, so that's it. I know that slides aren't going to go away, but when used most effectively, when we're using voice and then we're using images and we're hitting on that dual coding theory, you can create really impactful presentations that are memorable, that set you apart, and establish incredible credibility with what you're saying. So give that a try. Please reach out if you want some help on this. And I would love to hear how it goes. So Ernie and I say good luck and hope you have a great week. Thanks.